Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome inside the Guilty as Charged podcast. My name is Steven, and I am the host. We are hoping to get Alex in here shortly, having some technical difficulties, but Tyler is here, man. Tyler, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing so well that plot twist, I'm going to pick the Chargers to win this week.
Whoa, let's go. It's been a really interesting social media week for us on the podcast after being called douchebags for picking against the Chargers last week. Today, we're paid by the Chargers because we're not negative enough. So, been a bit of a turnaround on social media in our regard, I guess.
Hey, as long as I get paid, I don't care either way. Whatever I got to do.
Right. I mean, I wish we were getting paid by the Chargers. That'd be a lot of fun. It would be really cool to have all that access. But alas, we are part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network, so we have a good amount of access, and we're very grateful for that. So appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. We're gonna, of course, preview the Chargers and Chiefs game. Really dive into everything. Going to look a little different this week, obviously, because we have already played the Chiefs and we already did the deep dive into the roster and the coaching moves and all of that. So. We are not going to be doing that kind of conversation, but we are going to do a bit of a deep dive into where the Chiefs stand, where the Chargers stand, and all of that. So, first things first, Tyler, obviously both of us have gone back and watched the film from Sunday night. How are you feeling after watching the film and having some time to digest what happened on Sunday night?
First things first, just to continue with what we talked about after they played the 49ers. That defense is really good. Like the 49ers defense, in particular their front seven, and in particular the second half, and against the run the entire game, they were just really, really good. I know people want to just have better offense and the better, you call different things and you execute and you'll score more. But sometimes the other defense is really, really good. And San Francisco, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, all these guys played an outstanding game, particularly in the second half. So a ton of credit to them. The offense and the film, watching the offense was a surprise to me. And this is kind of where I started to think that I was going to pick the Chargers to win this week. I was feeling that way before seeing Keenan Allen go out there and practice. Now, if Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are playing, I feel a lot better about that prediction. But my impression from the 49ers game, because we reacted right after the game, we watched the broadcast, and that's basically it. Watching the game live, it just seemed like what we talked about and what most people thought. In the second half, things shut down and the 49ers took over. And I would agree with that to a certain extent. I don't think the offensive play calling was as sharp. The Chargers certainly weren't as sharp, and the 49ers were better, and protection fell through. What I was surprised by was how often, and at least in particular for this season, but really since a good while, that I actually did see maybe not 40-yard bomb opportunities, but several opportunities for that 15 to 30-ish chunk play kind of range pop up. And I really thought it was just going to be a first half thing because we remember the ones that were completed. We remember the one to DeAndre Carter, of course.
Mm-hmm.
The flip side, we remember the McKitty touchdown that he dropped, right? But watching other parts of the game, I realized that there's actually a good chunk of plays that, Lombardi talked about, listen, we're not a fast team, and that would really help, obviously, but we can scheme some things open. And I'll be completely honest. I think this, I know people don't want to hear this. I thought in terms of accessing that part of the field, a 15 to 30-ish yard chunk play opportunity part of the field with the guys that they had against the defense that they played, I thought it was one of just that part of the game, not the run game, not the short game, not the end around that nobody likes. But just in that particular sense, I thought it was one of Lombardi's better called games in a while, and I think his best of the year. And I can go to the sideline shot to Palmer that I have not seen them run that particular design before, I don't think. There was the ball to McKitty that was dropped that should have been a touchdown. There was the touchdown to Carter. There was a deep over to Palmer where, for whatever reason, Herbert completes that in his sleep to Keenan and to Mike, and I think sometimes even to Palmer, especially against Atlanta. But he just dumped it off to Rodgers on third down for some reason. There was a double crosser where he had Carter and Palmer wide open. And Fred Warner, it was a stunt or a blitz or whatever it was. And Fred Warner just got to him in less than 2 seconds. And he had to move off his spot. But both guys were open. If he had gotten it to Carter, it could have been a touchdown with some yak and whatnot. There was a whole shot to Palmer that he 100% would have completed if his arm wasn't hit. That was the interception that half of dumb Twitter likes to talk about. There's a one-on-one opportunity with Michael Bandy that absolutely would have been a 50, 60-yard bomb if it were Keenan, or especially if it were Mike Williams, I think.
Yeah.
But he pulled it down. That ended up being the scramble throw to Everett. But if that was Mike Williams, he's taking that shot, and he was looking that way too. There's another shot to Josh Palmer. Like, I'm not saying it was perfect game by any means, but they were really accessing more parts of the field than I really expected after watching the game through the first time. So that's why I feel so much more confident about the offense. Even with just what the guys they have, it felt like, as simple as it was, there were opportunities for guys to get their one-on-ones. Unfortunately, Telesco didn't seem interested in getting a right tackle after Pipkins, all this whole situation. And no offense to Foster Sarell, but he played Nick Bosa, and that sucked. Like, it didn't go very well. And the right side of the line with Zion as well, they just didn't hold up as well as they needed to get those extra couple of plays. And then, of course, the McKitty drop touchdown. So, it's a lot of what ifs with the offense. It's been that way. Oh, what if they caught this? What if Gerald Everett against the Falcons caught that one? What if Palmer didn't tip the ball in the air and it wasn't an interception? Same thing this week as it's been several weeks. But I'm very encouraged with the way that Lombardi got that part of the field going. Plenty of other issues with his game plan, but just in terms of that, it was very promising.
Yeah, I have to say, I wouldn't necessarily agree with it being like his best game of the season, but I thought it was a good overall game plan. And my favorite thing about the game plan was definitely how he used Josh Palmer. It was a lot of overs, a lot of posts, a lot of corners, a lot of hole shots. So I think that they're starting to figure out who exactly Josh Palmer can be and how to use him the right way. So that's an exciting thing. And his open score on ESPN's metrics is really, really good. Like, he's getting open at a much higher rate this year, it seems like, both on film and in the numbers. So I think that's a good thing. But just like I said on Twitter, like, their options were so limited outside of that it's so hard to call plays that way, and people will never understand that. It's always just like, Lombardi sucks. And like I said, I am not here to like defend him. I am not here to, get on a soapbox and preach that he's been an elite play caller, because that's just not true either. But, when you're trying to design deep shots to Michael Bandy against Charvarius Ward, or design plays for Trey McKitty in coverage against Talona Hufanga and Fred Warner, it's just like, what do you expect him to do in this situation? And then also the fact that, you have Nick Bosa, you have this great defensive line. Charles Omenihu, man, had himself a day as well. And unfortunately, they would do this package where they would put Nick Bosa and Omenihu right next to each other, going one-on-one against Zion and Foster Sarell. And like, we all love Zion Johnson. I think he's had a good rookie season, a bit up and down for sure. But that's not a fair matchup for him to go up against. And so the Niners are just so well coached. They're so incredibly well prepared for everything that whoever they play is going to do, but especially the Chargers, who are down all of these players. So it was absolutely a great display by the 49ers defense, and the Chargers still had a chance. So from Joe Lombardi's perspective, I really strongly disliked the way that he handled the Chase Daniel situation at the end of the first half. After rewatching it, I'm just like, what are we doing? So like, they run the screenplay on first down with Chase Daniel. I'm like, okay. Sure. But Fred Warner knew that was coming. Like, Fred Warner, if you watch the tape, just like instantly, as soon as Austin Eckler leaks out, goes and gets there. And then they're trying to run, of course, a stick concept, which, is a fair criticism of Joe Lombardi, absolutely, on second down. And then third down, they're trying to push the ball down the field with Chase Daniel. I'm like, run the ball. Like, just run the ball. I feel like Richard Sherman, watching that. And then the same thing with after Mitch Wishnowsky drew them pinned them at the 1 yard line. They're trying to run pass plays at the 1 yard line, which I get, like, from a clock perspective, but I feel like your first priority in that instance should be to get out of your own end zone and try and give yourself some room. So, there were definitely a lot of issues that I took with the game plan, but from a Josh Palmer perspective, I think they're trying to figure that out, and it's been working so far. They're getting him open, and so I think that's an exciting thing. Once we get Mike Williams back, once Keenan Allen comes back, that they're going to be able to have a true third guy, take some pressure off of him, off of those two, and be open for Justin, more consistently.
Yeah, he looked really, really solid. Like in the deep over, there could have been another 40 yards there. There was a third down quick out where he beat his guy, no problem. Off the line, would have absolutely picked up the first down there. There was the whole shot that he absolutely would have picked up another 20 to end the game. That was the interception. There was the defensive pass interference that he sort of picked up there. So he definitely was more involved, open, and sort of active. It's just, for one reason or another, the ball just did not get to him in those situations.
Yeah, and I think some of that is just, Justin and Josh still kind of working through some things, and like he's always had Keenan Allen's trust, and vice versa. And even Mike Williams has been a bit of a work in progress. So I think he'll get there. I mean, Josh Palmer hopefully is going to have a long career here in Los Angeles. So we'll see what happens there. All right, we'll get to some injuries, and then we'll talk about the Chiefs, and then of course do our preview. So from an injury perspective, it sounds like the Chargers are getting healthier, which is fantastic news. Everybody essentially returned to practice. That's not on injury reserve, at least. So Keenan, Mike, Gerald Everett, Trey Pipkins, all those guys limited in practice today. Chris Rumpf as well. And it sounded like based off of Monday that the Chargers should have at least Mike and Chris Rumpf back this week. It sounds like Gerald Everett as well kind of avoided any kind of long-term issue as well. So the biggest question marks, obviously, Trey Pipkins and Keenan Allen in that regard. But I mean, having Mike back, having Chris Rumpf back, having Gerald Everett stay and being able to stay in the lineup is going to be a huge help for this team, especially against the Chiefs.
Absolutely. Without those guys there, I mean, tough sledding. I'll see if I still think we can win if they're all not there. Yeah. But I mean, the drop off from Everett to I was actually trying to go back and watch the Eagles game to see that handoff to Roberts in that game, just to see what they did differently, because that worked. The one to Carter didn't. I ended up finding up the play where they just, Donald Parham was 1-on-1 on the sideline, and Herbert just threw it, whatever in coverage, but no problem. Parham picks that up. There's that buffer isn't there between Everett and the next tight end. There's no Parham there. It's going from Everett to McKitty, and I feel so bad. But watching McKitty on the field, like he's like less good, less athletic Virgil Green, and it's really, really sad to watch. But
it is,
like, you watch him, like Herbert looks at him, he's gonna get 5 yards on a quick out, and McKitty just like slips and falls, and it's like
yeah, I remember that play too.
Yeah, it's like I can't, like, this poor guy, like I feel bad. But so Everett being back would be huge, because otherwise, like, they literally do not have a tight end. They do, but they don't have a pass catching tight end. Like, it's just there's no way they can access anything extra with McKitty, with Rodgers. And I watched Richard Rodgers try to run block too, and it's like, oh, okay, that looks like McKitty. So that wasn't super great either. So Keenan back would be huge. I believe this team is absolutely fighting for one another. You get someone like Keenan Allen back who's just very infectious, and also very good. That'd be huge for this team. Keenan Allen, we'll see, because his situation. Do you want to fool me once, shame on you; fool me twice, shame on three? Do we want to rush him back out there again and have him get hurt again? No. But then you watch him do those individual drills today, and it's like, yeah, it doesn't look too bad. I think he could go run a couple of routes out there. Now someone's like, oh, Mike Williams still looks hurt. And I was just like, no, I think that's how he.
I think that's just how Mike runs.
I felt so bad. It's like, I think that's how Mike does the ladder drill. So I don't really know where he's at, but Keenan looked really, really good.
Yeah, man. I mean, you can tell that there's just a different kind of vibe with Keenan, even back at practice, and the whole team kind of seemed energized on Instagram today. So excited to see him come back for sure. Looks like we have Alex ready to rock and roll. Alex, what's up, man? Did you get your direct deposit? Oh.
Okay.
There we go.
It worked.
Did you get your direct deposit yet from John Spanos?
Not according to my bank account.
Well, what's up, man? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I restarted my computer and everything's fine. So I don't know. Fuck technology.
It's all good. It's all good, man. We were just obviously talking about some of the injuries and things like that. Sounds like we got some good news. We'll see how the rest of the week goes. The Chiefs kind of banged up a little bit as well. It doesn't sound like Juju Smith-Schuster is going to be playing. I think MVS didn't practice today. Kadarius Toney did not practice today. So we'll see what happens there. Obviously, we're going to talk about Kadarius Toney here in a little bit, but hopefully things are a little bit more even from an injury perspective this week.
Yeah, I don't know to what extent those receivers are not great, but it's amazing that even if all three didn't play, they still have Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore and Travis Kelce. But depth is cool.
Yeah, would be nice. Would be nice. All right, let's get into our Chiefs discussion here. Tyler, of course, has a slideshow, although it's a mini slideshow. Like I said, it's going to be a little bit different from our usual kind of discussion. So, as Tyler says here on the screen, Kansas City Chiefs. Oh, look, they're still good. They are still good, and there's obviously been a lot of MVP discussion being thrown around this week and the past couple of weeks. So. We unfortunately are going to talk a little bit about that discussion being swayed towards Patrick Mahomes. But Alex, I'll start with you here. I mean, we're obviously 11 weeks into the season and the Chiefs are still really good. So where are you at with the Chiefs and where are you at with Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, it turns out the team with the best quarterback in the league is arguably the best team in the league. So like that's kind of where we are with the Chiefs. And Patrick Mahomes, I mean, I feel like around week 2 when we were previewing this game and thinking about this game, there was a lot of, what's Tyreek Hill? What's this offense going to be without Tyreek Hill? Still kind of in that era. We hadn't really seen a definitive answer, and the answer is Patrick Mahomes is the MVP of the league at this point. And if you just look at some of the numbers, obviously the Chiefs have, changed what they've done on offense. You don't have a lot of these long winding plays that, just result in a Travis Kelce, broken tackles, or a Tyreek Hill, just like long drawn out play like you saw in the Bills game in the AFC divisional round, right? So, gone are the days of that Chiefs offense, but now you have those 5 to 15 yard intermediate throws. You have really quick decisions at the line, and really intermediate throws around the line. And now you have guys like Kadarius Toney who can come take advantage of that. Obviously, Travis Kelce and Juju Smith-Schuster prior to the injury had been doing a pretty good job of that as well. And Patrick Mahomes was 25th out of 31st in terms of quarterbacks who threw 5 to 15 air yards in terms of EPA per dropback. He's number 1 in the league in EPA per dropback on intermediate throws now in 2022. So, I wouldn't say Patrick Mahomes has gotten better without Tyreek Hill, but because obviously they're not taking the amount of deep shots that they used to. But in terms of playing a more efficient offense, Patrick Mahomes looks as good as ever, and that's very bad news for the Chargers, and well, I would say the rest of the AFC West, but the rest of the AFC West looks to be falling apart outside of the Chiefs and the Chargers. So yeah, looks pretty good in Kansas City still.
Yeah, Vegas has can't fire Josh McDaniel stuff going on. Derek Carr crying at the podium. I mean, frustrated with Darren Waller. So it's all fine and dandy there. I heard this crazy stat about the Denver Broncos really quickly, that if they just scored 18 points a game, they would be 8-1 right now. Just 18 points a game, and they would be 8-1 right now.
That's something. I also just found out by Googling that the Colts are 3-0 against the AFC West.
Yeah, that's fun. Jeff Saturday, shout out, 1-0. But like the whole Patrick Mahomes discourse in the offseason was it was mind-boggling to me how much people would turn onto or turn away from a player of his caliber. I mean, it's like these all-time great players, and we are approaching all-time great status for Patrick Mahomes, and they adjust and they find a way to figure out what they're dealing with. And it's like they still have Travis Kelce, they have a deep receiver room, and Andy Reid is still designing the offense and calling the plays. So Patrick Mahomes has definitely had to adjust. His turnover worthy rate is significantly down this year as well. He's 7th lowest right now. Would actually be 5th if you take out, if you filter to 50% of the dropbacks instead of 20. Shout out Justin Herbert, number 1 in that category. But Patrick Mahomes has just really been able to take what's been given to him and do it at such a high level. So I feel like personally we're in just kind of like that LeBron James territory for Patrick Mahomes, where it's like he should just be considered the MVP favorite every single year until somebody like legitimately takes it from him over the course of a whole season. So, I mean, when you compare the statistics of what Patrick Mahomes is doing to all of his counterparts who are in that MVP discussion, it's just like Mahomes blows them all out of the water. And then he probably has the worst supporting cast, at least from a receiver perspective, of anybody else in the MVP conversation. I mean, he doesn't have DK and Tyler Lockett. He doesn't have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. He doesn't have AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. Like, obviously Travis Kelce helps a good amount, but he's doing more with less than he ever has this year. And I think, unfortunately, like Alex said, it's something that should be commended from a general fan perspective.
Yeah, he's unfortunately been outstanding. I hate him, but I respect him. Him to be able to do this at the level he has this year, a lot of turnover. Again, they had it sucks that the Chiefs have had two really solid drafts, in particular with their offensive line as well, because it just allowed Mahomes to just continue being him. Part of that's the offensive line. Some of it's Travis Kelce, some of it's just himself, Andy Reid, whatever. But I mean, Patrick Mahomes, man, you got to give him credit. Like you said, he should be the MVP frontrunner every year moving forward, because he's just that good. And to be able to do this right now, it's outstanding. And I hope he absolutely sucks on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we'll dive into a lot of more specifics of this matchup in a little bit here, but obviously the big move that we did not get to cover, earlier in the season before week 2 was obviously Kadarius Toney. That didn't happen yet. So magically, Kadarius Toney has figured out how to be healthy this year. Suddenly, when he gets traded to Kansas City, he's figured out how to get on the field. So, Kadarius Toney has 8 touches, 112 yards, and 1 touchdown in 2 games so far as a member of the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, he did not practice today, although it doesn't seem like anything serious. So, Toney, McCole Hardman, like it's not to the extent of what they used to have, obviously, but those 2 players and are just so much of a problem to tackle in space. And, them getting a guy who's averaging, I think, like 8 yards after the catch per reception right now in Kadarius Toney is just, it creates a lot of different kind of matchup nightmares right now for the Chiefs.
That's part of the issue, is that the Chiefs have just this diverse group of characters. Whether one guy gets 100 or not, most guys really won't for that Chiefs offense unless you're Travis Kelce. But you have Kelce, then you have a deep threat in Marquez. You kind of have now you have Kadarius Toney, you have Sky Moore. Like, just the way they can access different things with the kinds of players that they have is so unique.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're the Chargers going into this matchup, Kadarius Toney scares me a little bit because the Chargers have had problems tackling when it comes to football recently. And so him in open space, particularly around the line of scrimmage, where, he can break off kind of a big, run off of a screen at any time, or just, turn a 5-yard play into a 20-yard play and get to that second level of the Chargers defense. That is where I think it gets a little bit concerning, because when it comes to Travis Kelce, yeah, you have to be concerned about him, but in every game that Derwin's been healthy, the Chargers have at least found ways to kind of like limit him. But healthy Kadarius Toney is going to be something that the Chargers sort of have to solve in this one in comparison to the last Chiefs matchup, obviously.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest curiosity of how the Chargers will kind of approach this is, what do they do with Michael Davis in this particular matchup? Because in the past, they've used him a lot on Travis Kelce. And I think from his perspective, that's probably his best matchup from a skill set, because, the players that he really struggles defending are like the smaller, shiftier, quicker guys. And so it's like, you're not going to put him on Kadarius Toney. You're not going to put him on McCole Hardman. So, whenever Marquez Valdes-Scantling is in there, if he is playing, which again, it kind of sounds like he is, but so just kind of curious what they do with Michael Davis this week, because Hardman and Toney are bad matchups for him. And at the same time, it's like, you probably want Asante Samuel Jr. on their best receiver, which has been Juju, but that's, again, more of a slot option. So just kind of curious how the Chargers play out the cornerback matchups this week.
Yeah, that, but also maybe Derwin James just does. We go back to him just covering Kelce, because they did experiment for all of 5 plays with JT Woods. It was like, one series, and then they went away from that for whatever reason.
I think it was 4 snaps in like the very first drive, and then it was like 1 to start the second half, and that was it.
Well, we're gonna get to 10 this week, and we're gonna make it really count this week. I don't know. I'm really curious what they do in that regard because they are exploring that option.
Any thoughts there, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that they probably just go Derwin with Kelsey and then, sort of hope for the best there. Obviously, Travis Kelsey's big game in SoFi last year, was when Derwin got hurt in the first half, and then have that explosive second half and the touchdown in overtime. So I feel like they feel pretty comfortable with that matchup and just kind of let everything else fall into place as it will. Whether that means maybe some of Michael Davis on Kadarius Toney or maybe some of Bryce Callahan. They can probably pick and choose their spots there in terms of which guys they want on them at certain times. But I think the Chiefs probably keep him in that intermediate range role and just kind of let him do some damage in the open field when he does get the ball.
Who's better at open field tackling, Trey Marshall or JT Woods? I'm gonna say JT Woods. I think they gave him a good bit of time, and I think he's going to have some of this figured out. Also, I don't know if Trey Marshall ever actually made a tackle.
Not a good one, that's for sure. We'll see what happens with JT, man. I still think that there's a decent amount to be excited about there, but Rafi Marcus, is it too early to call Asante a Pro Bowler? Obviously Pro Bowl voting has opened this week, so obviously go vote for whoever you think. But I think Asante, I don't know if he's a top 10 right now. I think he's probably in like that top 15 range. He's been really, really steady, improving every single week. And you can just tell, like, he's so close to just like putting it together, man. Like every single week, he's just like, pass break up here that probably should be an interception. Side note, also, he's like inches away from blocking a kick at some point. It's going to happen.
Oh my gosh, did you see
he's
that?
He's so close to blocking a kick. It will happen at some point in the season, but Asante is really improving every single week. I've been very, very happy with his development. I don't know if I would call him a Pro Bowler. I'm going to vote for him, absolutely, but I don't know if like really he's a Pro Bowler. But I've been very happy with how he's been playing this season.
Yeah, our fan base is enough of a complete psychopath that we can actually get Asante Samuel Jr. to the Pro Bowl, and I honestly think the Chargers fans could. Yeah, because he certainly deserves to at least be in a conversation to be nominated, I suppose. Again, like you said, he's almost there. He's not quite there because there's always a couple of plays a game where it's like, so close. But then you have the other plays where it's like, oh my gosh, he almost had a pick, or he forces the incompletion, or he gets the pick. Wait, when's the last time he got a pick? By the way, I think our bold prediction for the last 37 weeks has been get one, but he keeps dropping them. Was it because he's dropped 85?
I know he's had a few he's had 2 this year, right? Was week 1 the last one?
I think it was the
greatest pick of all time.
Why is PFF not working right now?
I mean, should have had one against the Chiefs if he doesn't let it hit the ground. That is kind of the one I remember.
Yeah,
too.
And he also had one that should have been picked off against the Seahawks. He was so convinced that he had that interception.
Oh, and yeah, like he was so convinced the whole coaching staff, and then you watch the replay, it's like, oh, not even close. but I appreciate the enthusiasm.
Why is PFF being slow right now?
So against the Seahawks, he tipped one into Kenneth Murray's hands or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
He didn't have his own, did he? I don't know. Nick
not against Seattle.
But he's so close, man. I can't wait to see him when he become like year 3. Oof.
Yeah, for whatever reason, PFF is like not working for me right now. What I will say about regarding Asante Samuel Jr. So there are only 3 cornerbacks in the league that have forced more incompletions than him. James Bradbury for the Eagles, Sauce Gardner for the Jets, and then Darius Williams for the Jaguars. And then he's tied with like 8 others for 4th place.
That's awesome.
Carlton Davis, Trayvon Diggs, Xavier Howard, Patrick Peterson, Stephon Gilmore. He's in really good company from that regard.
It sounds like every corner we wanted this offseason is on that list, except for JC Jackson.
Yeah. Unfortunately. All right. Let's get into our victory formation segment here, as we, of course, do every single week. And we'll be able to really get going on this conversation. So, Alex, we'll start with you, man. What is one thing that you need to see the Chargers execute in order to secure that victory formation on Sunday night?
I would just like to see some receivers play. In terms of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and their health, I mean, we're going to talk about it all week, but it's an automatic L if the Chargers have to go out with Bandy and Carter and the whole gang. Like, you're just not going to keep up with the Chiefs under any circumstances if you throw that group out there. If you have one of Mike Williams or Keenan Allen and the Chargers, this was the situation in week 2. They did have Mike Williams. He had that big game and they were in it till the end at least. Then I think you can make it relatively competitive. And obviously, if you have both of them, and let's say Keenan Allen's at 70 or 80%, then I think you can keep that game even more competitive. But really, I think the key to victory formation this week is optimally, you would love to have both of them play. I think Mike Williams seems a little bit more likely than Keenan Allen at this point, but you have to have one of those guys play, particularly because we've seen how Mike Williams has been able to play against the Chiefs. We've seen how Keenan Allen at some points has been able to play against them as well. But the amount of separation that some of the other Chargers receivers are getting at this point is just really non-existent in terms of what DeAndre Carter has been producing in that regard, in terms of what Bandy and Palmer have also been producing in terms of separation. Herbert can kind of like eke out a couple there, but at this point, you do need at least one of Mike Williams or Keenan Allen on the field to A, bolster the receiver room in general, but B, help some of those other guys get a couple opportunities where they may be able to get open. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler and I spoke about Josh Palmer, to start the show, and so, if it's just him again, obviously the Chargers are in a bit of a tough spot, but, I think this is a game where if you're not playing the other guys that are obviously Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, then you got to mix it up a little bit. Like, I don't even need to see 20 snaps out of Jason Moore and Keelan Doss. Like, just give me 10 or something like that, and just give me an actual outside receiver. So, Josh Palmer, I think, has been doing good, but I think this is the Chiefs. Like, this is a much different kind of beast. So obviously having Keenan and Mike out there would help for sure. I think for me, the key for victory formation this week is for really the Chargers have to figure out what kind of rushing attack they want to be. And I think they've kind of fully pivoted away from the outside zone stuff. They're not really doing that a whole lot. The majority of their rushing attempts so far this year are actually like in the middle. So they're doing a lot more inside zone runs, split zone kind of things like that. And then this last week, it was like, hey, let's try some of these toss plays. Let's go back to some counters. And it was just a different approach, the jet sweep. So I feel like the Chargers are trying to do too much when it comes to the rushing attack. They're trying to kind of workshop all these different ideas. And I think they just need to roll with like whatever kind of identity that you want. And, for what it's worth, the toss plays worked out. I mean, they were their best runs of the evening, in my opinion, on Sunday night. But, they're trying to figure out, can they be an inside zone rushing team? Do they have that kind of physicality? What do we have in Sony Michel? What do we have in Isaiah Spiller? So I think they just need to, they're at the point of the season where they just need to figure it out and just like pick an identity and just roll with it. It's not been pretty from a down to down basis. Again, I feel like they're just trying to do too many things right now. So just simplify it, run behind Zion and Corey and Matt Filer. That's your strong run blocking trio right now. And just kind of hold the fort down for one more game until Joshua Kelly comes back. So when Kelly comes back, I do think the rushing attack will improve. Right now they're 30th in yards per game on the ground and then 32nd in DVOA. So it's not been pretty, but this week you've got to be able to kind of sustain drives and, keep your offense on the field as much as possible. And so I think the rushing attack is the key there to, make sure that they are extending these drives and not having so many 3 and outs.
No, that's a great call. Watching them against the 49ers, I didn't key into this too much against the Falcons, but just watching against the 49ers, you could tell things just took a little bit too long. And I think the Chargers just have to even just be okay with 3 yards and a
Yeah.
cloud of dust, 3.5 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards. And if that's kind of all you can get, Isaiah Spiller had 7 touches for 29 yards against the Falcons. If that's all they get, on a per play basis, that'd be great, because against the 49ers, they did try sort of some different things. And I understand the philosophy of trying to not do the same thing, but at the same time, you can't lose one, get 0, get 1, lose 1, get 0 on every first down.
Yeah.
Do I want them to pass it more on first down? Not necessarily. For the entire year, they've been one of the higher, throwing over expected teams, but just get your 3 yards, get 2nd and 7 or something. Like they need to just kind of get into that. And it's not sexy, but I don't want Foster Sarell versus George Karlaftis or whoever they're going to blitz with on 3rd and 10, and that made them, the Chargers suffer in the second half of the game last week, and I hope that doesn't happen again.
And I think the Niners are like top 5 in opponent rushing yards. Oh, they're first. Goody. So there you go. They're first on the year. The Chiefs are a little bit down the road. So theoretically should be a little bit of an easier task this week. And obviously having Trey Pipkins should help there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so for my victory formation, I don't know if it's necessarily, this kind of feels like a matchup, but for whatever reason, you can say it's Fehoko, you can say it's just the way that they schemed or whatever. It just seemed like Kenneth Murray finally had his day. Like we've been waiting for something. And whether it's taking on Trent Williams in a zone blocking scheme, or whether it's going sideline to sideline, or getting 2 tackles for loss, like he just looked so much better. So not necessarily just him and that matchup against the run or something, but just find a way to keep these linebackers clean. If it's Drew Tranquil, if it's Troy Reader for a couple of snaps or whatever, if it's Kenneth Murray, keep these guys clean. I know that stopping the run isn't the big thing against the Chiefs, but at the same time, the Chargers benefited so much against them in week 2 because they kind of were able to corral most of the runs outside of one big run. And that forces, Patrick Mahomes just to hold onto it for a bit longer. You don't have Joey Bosa this week again. So you just winning on first down or second down, whatever it is, forcing them to throw. And then you can throw in your exotic blitz packages, Khalil Mack and win as one-on-ones or whatever. So just try to keep those linebackers clean. I really want to see them do that again this week. Again, Fehoko is a big part of that. Otito played really well. I thought Covington played really well. Both those guys are out now. So it's up to, I have no idea at this point who's going to be, the starters, Sebastian Joseph Day, Morgan Fox, Brandon Fehoko. Like it's up to those guys and whatever depth they have behind them to keep them clean again and really keep the ball rolling, especially for Kenneth Murray.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I felt like genuinely this probably was Kenneth Murray's best game as a pro on Sunday night. Like he just was seeing things at a much higher level. And like you said, the defensive tackles were helping, keep him clean, which was fantastic. But he was just so much more decisive and physical in this kind of matchup. And, seeing him take on Trent Williams was, that was a pretty impressive thing to see. And, he wasn't the only one he had to play where he went head up with Kyle Juszczyk as well. So if the Chargers can get that version of Kenneth Murray from here on out, like it theoretically should solve a good amount of the problems from a run defense. So, if Kenneth Murray and Drew Tranquil are playing at that kind of level, then the Chargers run defense should, improve over the next few weeks.
Yeah, they had the play outside something, and Murray was on Trent Williams. You had Khalil Mack on the outside setting the edge. You had Sebastian Joseph Tate maintaining the pocket, and then you had Kenneth Murray coming downhill, attacking Trent Williams. It was perfect. I'm like, oh my God, run defense. It was so great to see, and I hope that continues this week.
Yeah, I think you hope for the best for Kenneth Murray and really all the linebackers, but just if you can get a repeat effort of what you saw last week, particularly in the second half of that game where the Chargers are as a whole a much cleaner tackling team in that second half, I would say, than they were in the first half, then, theoretically that solves a lot of your problems against the Chiefs, or at least some of them, and makes things like Kadarius Toney and some of the other offensive weapons in that intermediate range not as scary. But if those weapons get to the second level, that can be a problem. I'll talk about tackling in one of my points later.
There you go. So I do want to kind of, expand on Tyler's victory formation here with my key matchup. That is obviously the Chargers pass rush versus Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offensive line. So The individual pass rush numbers for the Chargers have not been great. Morgan Fox having a good year, Khalil Mack having a good year, and that's been about it so far for the Chargers as a team. They are 28th in ESPN's pass rush win rate metric, and it really checks out, man. Like watching this pass rush is just if Morgan Fox isn't doing something like from a technique standpoint, it's just a lot of bull rushing and it's not a lot of pressure going on. So obviously the designer blitz packages are really fun to watch. They do a great job with Derwin. They do a great job with Drew Tranquil. Those two players are fantastic blitzers, but this is absolutely a game where somebody, whether that's Chris Rumph, Kyle Van Noy, or Morgan Fox, needs to step up and win their one-on-ones outside of Khalil Mack. So the Chargers pass rush needs Joey Bosa back in a very bad way, but particularly against Patrick Mahomes, you have to be able to have that same kind of pass rush output that you did in week 2. And, in week 2, I thought they did a great job as a whole of being able to rush him and keeping him inside the pocket. And so, this is an opportunity for maybe Chris Rumph back and has a good game. Maybe Kyle Van Noy kind of has that big performance that we've kind of been waiting for. But somebody outside of Khalil Mack has to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes and somebody outside of the blitzers as well. So the pass rush is in a bad way right now, and somebody needs to get them out of their funk. So for me, obviously you get them into 3rd and long, and when you get there, you have to be able to win your one-on-ones this week.
Speaking of 3rd and long and 3rd downs in general, I'm going to say it again. My key matchup is please put a QB spy on Patrick Mahomes. We've been saying it forever, or at least I've been saying it forever. Patrick Mahomes in his last 2 games against the Chargers, this is actually last year, but he had 32 yards and then 45 yards. So 77 combined yards in rush on the ground in 2 games last year. He, this year in his last 4 games, has 123 yards on the ground. So he almost by himself is kind of carrying that Chiefs run game. And obviously had that big explosive run against the Titans on Sunday Night Football a few weeks ago. And so it's just a problem. And the Chargers already are compounded in terms of how bad their 3rd down defense is. They cannot continue to make that mistake by also letting Mahomes beat them with his legs too. Because if that is the case, then this could turn into an ugly game pretty fast. Almost, even though the Mexico City game was close, it just felt like the Chargers, that's an example of one game where the Chargers never really could stick in it all the way, particularly just because of the late defensive breakdowns. Even though they were playing solid defense, they just had those 3rd down breakdowns. And, Patrick Mahomes and his legs were the source for a lot of those, in addition to getting bailed out on some of those plays. But you don't have to worry, I guess, about the long extending Tyreek Hill kind of plays for the Chiefs anymore, since they are running a quicker offense. But I do still think, bailing out and throwing all the guys into coverage is something Patrick Mahomes could potentially take advantage of on, 3rd and 5, 3rd and short, any situation where he just feels like he can take advantage and get out of the pocket and pick up that 1st down. So I think that keeping a QB spy on Patrick Mahomes, it could be Kenneth Murray this game. You can give that responsibility to, a bunch of players, I guess. But for what the Chargers need to do in this game, you don't really have to worry too much about the Chiefs' ground game in comparison to what the Chargers' recent opponents have been. But it's a matchup that keeps me up at night because of just how exhausted and how tired this defense can get if Patrick Mahomes is allowed to stay on the field that long.
Yeah, I'm wondering what the Chargers did last time they played the Chiefs. I don't know if it was just because they didn't rush the ball all that much, or I don't know about that to be a scramble. But Mahomes only had, he had -1 yards. I'm assuming there's a kneel down in there somewhere. So I don't know what the Chargers did last time. It seemed to work, but they also threw it 35 times. Maybe they just were able to access that part of the field for whatever reason. They didn't run it. I'm used to Mahomes getting more than -1 yard. So I'm curious to go back and look at what happened. As far as the pass rush goes, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at what they did the last 2 weeks. Morgan Fox leads the way in 2 games with 3 pressures. and then it's a bunch of 2s. Your next guys that have 2 pressures, Otito, he's out. Covington, he's out. And then Kyle Van Noy and Khalil Mack have 2 pressures each over the last 2 games. So 13 pressures over the last 2 games on like 300 something individual pass rush snaps for the Chargers. That is not great. So if the Chargers are going to turn any game around, hopefully it's this one, but against that offensive line, I don't know. If Fehoko wants to get 3 sacks this game, hey, that'd be awesome, man.
Yeah, Fehoko was fantastic on Sunday night. Just throwing that one out there. Consistently setting the line of scrimmage, as we know he tends to do. So, Tyler, what's your key matchup heading into another Sunday night football game?
The now unsuspended Frank Clark and George Karlaftis versus Foster Sarell and I suppose Jamari Salyer, but I kind of have forgotten about Salyer because I feel like that just whatever, he kind of does his business.
I forgot that Frank Clark was A, suspended, and B, coming back this week.
Yeah, so will he get 2 pressures? Sure, probably, if I won't do all that much. But I hope he doesn't do that much. I mean, it was really unfortunate watching the Chargers have something a bit open, something, looking great, or even just running to the right, and it just was not the same. If Trey Pipkins is out there, hey, then I'm still watching that matchup too, because he's probably not 100%. But if you're not going to give your offense any help with their weapons, at least protect Justin Herbert. So these plays that take 47 hours, because Michael Bandy, probably runs a little slower than I do, it'll take a bit longer, and hopefully they can at least protect or run blocking, protection, all of that. That's what I'm watching, because that was, to me, the number one disruptive issue with them last week against the 49ers, right guard and right tackle in particular. And I suppose the tight ends, take care of that and you have a chance at least.
Yeah. I mean, obviously things kind of changed once Chris Jones kind of went off. And obviously, as Frank Blakely pointed out, Corey Lindsey did not play in the second half of that game. It was Will Clapp playing in that game. So that's another thing that you have to worry about. So Zion had some really good moments against Chris Jones in that matchup. He'll have to have them again. But, if we get another game of Foster Sarell, man, it's going to be a very similar kind of game plan, even if Keenan and Mike are back as they had last week. A lot of max protecting, a lot of chipping. So, Foster Sarell, to his credit, he exceeded my expectations, but it's not like he went out there and played well. I mean, he played well relative to the scale of being an undrafted free agent starting his first game against Nick Bosa. But it's so much harder to operate an offense when you have to send help every single play to your right tackle spot, as we saw at times last year when Storm Norton was getting cooked by, several elite pass rushers. So, Frank Clark and George Karlaftis are not Nick Bosa, but they are good. Absolutely, they are good, pass rushers for sure.
Yeah, I will be curious, not so much this game, because I think if they start Foster Sarell, then they're going to start Foster Sarell the whole game. But if Foster Sarell does struggle again, I do kind of want to see how much of a leash, I guess, he has on that right tackle position while Trey Pipkins is out, which I would imagine he's also out for this game. Because, I mean, we already kind of know how they feel about Storm Norton for starting Foster Sarell over him in the first place. But I do think that if things do potentially get ugly this game, is there a world in which, not that Storm Norton would get thrown into the middle of it, but if Trey Pipkins is out for a more extended period of time, I do wonder if they would at some point consider Storm Norton, or are they just fully done with him? I feel like that's kind of the line with that we're riding with Foster Sarell right now.
Dude, it's so frustrating. Like, we elevate the guy to the practice squad to start over Storm Norton, and it's like, okay, so let's say Trey Pipkins misses this week. They're out of Foster Sarell elevations after this week because they elevated him against the Broncos. So is Foster Sarell your swing tackle, or is Storm Norton your swing tackle? And like, are you going to cut Storm Norton when you have to get to that point? Like, it's just so frustrating, man. Watching that film on Sunday night, again, Foster Sarell did his job. He didn't, he successfully avoided the Avalanche game against Nick Bosa, with a lot of help. But it's like, you've had so many opportunities to find a more reliable swing tackle. And then, of course, Pipkins gets injured. And so we have to have a Forrest Sarell versus Storm Norton conversation. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, Roundtree's a running back on the roster now.
Ugh.
They can't play Keelan Doss, Jason Moore. I saw him run a go route against the 49ers, and it did help, I think. So that was good. But if there was some back and forth between Cyril and Norton during practice last week, where it's like, okay, one guy starts this day, one guy starts the other day, and then we maybe they would pull Cyril, but they're going with him the entire rest of the way, man. Don't give up on Asians that quickly. They've already learned their mistake the first time.
You know, he did have some good moments for sure. I'm definitely more intrigued about like keeping him around beyond this season than I was heading into this week. So he had some good moments against Nick Bosa, had some very poor moments as well, but it's Nick Bosa, so here's what it is. All right, let's get to our bold predictions here. Tyler, you missed our show last week, so I'll start with you here. Your bold prediction for Sunday night is what?
Chargers win. That's my bold prediction.
We're doing the win again, not by multiple scores?
No. I already heard Alex poo-poo in my
well, I'm just asking. Are you going to predict a win today and then Saturday change your mind, or what? You know,
as long as Herbert doesn't get food poisoning from the Raising Cane's or whatever, then sure. I'm leaning. Yes, we'll keep it as a win, barring nobody gets extra hurt. And there's a random injury occurrence or new concussion tomorrow when I wake up.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so bold prediction for me. Again, it kind of sounds like Gerald Everett is gonna play. So,
are you doing mine? Are you doing my bold prediction for the week too?
No. Although it wouldn't surprise me if it happened again. But heading into this morning, I was thinking like, hey, like maybe we do end up getting a tight end touchdown out of non-Gerald Everett tight end. So, you know what? I'm going to stick with it because I feel like that is extra bold. I'm going to say Trey McKitty or Richard Rodgers score a touchdown on Sunday night.
What do you want me to do if that happens? Like, well, not I mean like that, but I mean, in terms of ghost peppers and things.
I don't know. We'll come up with something. I'm not like too keen on like punishing you, but I don't know. It just feels like they're. I guess I could maybe include Xander or Horvath into that conversation, but it just feels like the tight end position is just kind of due for a non-Gerald Everett nice moment.
Yeah, no, it's not gonna happen. So I'm gonna fine. I'll give like a numbers sort of thing. I'm gonna double down. Gerald Everett will once again surpass Travis Kelce for yards in this game.
There you go. All right, Alex, go ahead, man.
I'll go with a weird one. Maybe Joe Lombardi decides to open up the playbook. Austin Eckler, I think he pulls a McCaffrey. 1 rushing touchdown, 1 receiving touchdown, and 1 passing touchdown. I don't know. Maybe it happens. Maybe we get a little Bengals, Justin Herbert, Philly special action. Would love to see it. I don't know if the Chargers have the facilities right now on their offensive line to be that creative, but Austin Eckler seems to kind of be the only thing that's working on this offense consistently right now, matching or really exceeding his touchdown totals from last year. Would love to see him kind of keep it up in this game.
Yeah, I should have showed the clip on Twitter, but I think it was the first drive of the game where everybody was flowing left and they leaked out Austin Eckler on a Texas route. It was fantastic, man. So need to see more of that happening. When was the last time we did see a trick play? I can't even remember.
Against the Kansas City Chiefs, where they tried to throw it DeAndre Carter back across to, I think it was Eckler.
I don't even remember that, man.
So they actually tried that in practice too. They would quick screen it, I think, to Keenan Allen, and then Keenan Allen would throw it back across the field to Eckler, and then Eckler.
Oh yeah. It was but like behind the line of scrimmage. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, except I've only seen it work once, and that was against the Chargers defense in practice. I don't really know.
My bold prediction is a trick play in which DeAndre Carter doesn't like somehow go tumbling 10 yards backwards and like.
Do we get past the 22 this week in kickoff returns?
Oh man.
Without a touchback, guys.
Yeah, that
probably not.
Probably not. That graphic that Arjun shared of average field position after kickoff returns, man, it was sad because DeAndre Carter was he was really good in kickoff returns last year, and he's been fantastic as a punt returner, but Just feels like there's just no making people miss on kickoff return right now.
Yeah. I can't believe there's a team that's worse. Wasn't it the Broncos?
I think the Packers as well.
God, the Packers just can't. Don't the Packers have Bisaccia?
Yeah, but they're in a similar boat to the Chargers, where it's like they're clearly really bad at like the return game. And I mean, Amari Rodgers, who was cut, has like 4 special teams fumbles.
That's especially kind of bad.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for us tonight, guys. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Tyler is going to be at the game on Sunday night. I'm going to be out of town, so we're going to have to figure out what what happens in terms of our post-game coverage, but we'll, of course, let you know over the next few days. So, Alex, we'll start with you, man. Any final thoughts before we head out for the evening?
Nope. Hope we beat the Chiefs. I guess Tyler survived last week because we lost to the 49ers. I'm down for whatever ridiculous bet people come up with if we do beat the Chiefs, because I certainly will be picking against the Chargers, hoping for a win. But come up with some punishment if the Chargers do end up pulling a win out against the Chiefs.
I want you to kill and eat one of those birds on live on the live stream, which might get you in trouble with the government over there or something.
Yeah, so let's maybe shoot a little lower.
Okay, I want you to go to the store and just go to Ralph's, get one of those pre-cooked chickens.
Ralph's, I'm not in the fucking United States.
And Ralph's is a West Coast thing.
Is it? Okay, go to the Caribbean Safeway and just go to town. What do you guys have?
Not Ralph's and not Safeway.
Okay, go get a frozen meal from 7-Eleven.
No, not that either.
KFC.
Okay, there actually is a KFC.
Yes, yeah, there's a KFC. There's always a KFC. I don't know why.
Rafi says you should eat funeral potatoes, so I'll send you the recipe that my mom makes.
Oh,
okay.
God.
They must be bad because I looked at pictures of funeral potatoes. It looks good. So I don't know. It doesn't look that bad.
What? You were looking at pictures? Oh, that's right. You put them in the thumbnail one time, huh?
No, it was that picture of Kyle Van Noy where he's like, "Oh, this is so delicious" or whatever. And then
from the wings.
Yeah. Which I can't wait for that to come out. But,
yeah. That first one, dude, they did Austin Eckler so dirty, man. They gave him all the hard questions, and my guy was just sweating after eating the wings. It was hilarious.
Yeah, that was a rough one. Forgot this from Nick S. Oh, it was nice knowing you, Tyler. R.I.P. I don't know what happened, but nice knowing you too, Nick. That was probably my prediction.
I think that's when you were talking about Joe Lombardi calling a good game on Sunday night.
Well, I studied, and that's what happened.
There you go. Lefty top 10s just now. Are the Chargers lucky to have Joe Lombardi? I mean, it could be much worse. Ask Broncos fans if they would rather have Joe Lombardi or Nathaniel Hackett calling plays right now.
Fair enough. I don't think they're lucky to have Joe Lombardi. I think they're lucky to have Justin Herbert.
100%.
I think it could be worse, but I don't know if they're lucky to have Joe Lombardi. Yeah,
and I mean, to be fair, Joe Lombardi was Brandon Staley's at least third choice as offensive coordinator. So take that for what it's worth. All right, Tyler, any final thoughts before we head out, man?
Yeah, apparently I'm very sheltered. So that's it.
Man, what a fun week for these comments. It's been fun, regardless. But as always, appreciate all you guys tuning into the live chat today. Make sure and like the video, subscribe, turn on the notifications. Oh, habanero wings or some international equivalent.
That's fine. I'll do that, I guess.
That's boring.
Yeah, eat spicy wings. Great. What is it, Tuesday? I would do that. So
it's not a punishment. I think that's good.
It's not the punishment. Yeah, it's not the punishment. So I think it needs to be somewhere in between. I eat wings and I kill a bird. It's somewhere in that range. let's get somewhere in there.
Alex, pick a number between 1 and 100.
21.
Okay, you have to spend 21 seconds praising Carson Wentz.
Oh.
You want to go kill those birds now, don't you?
Oh,
International prison doesn't sound too bad anymore.
man. Speaking of, guy got demoted for Heineke today. Rest in peace.
Oh yeah.
Is Carson
officially.
Wentz going to be like the new Tyrod Taylor, or like you just bring him on your roster and maybe you'll get better quarterback play after that?
That's not
Like
a bad
It's
comparison.
like a passive aggressive Tyrod Taylor, but I don't know.
All right. That's a good place to stop. So again, we'll let you guys know the schedule coming up this weekend, but should be a fun weekend. Obviously, Chargers get a big opportunity on Sunday Night Football to get some momentum, potentially a signature win against the Chiefs. So exciting all around there. So as always, appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.